Hello. In this video, let us discuss about sequence types supported by Python. So we may ask, what is a sequence? Sequence means what? In a normal way, we do one after another. That's called a sequence. And very particularly, the sequence in Python is most widely used in Python. So the sequence can be visualized or easily understood by visualizing an. So in other programming languages, we have an array where we store the
similar type of values in the adjacent locations. That is what an array. If it is an integer array, then in each location we will store only the integer values. Other values are not allowed to be stored. So here that is an array. Now in sequence in Python, there are basically three types of sequences are there. So generally sequence represents collection of values in order. So this is very important here. Collection of value in order. So wherever you want to maintain some collection in particular order, then what we can do, we can use the sequences. Okay, what are the types of sequences? So the first sequence is basically an alias of an array. So the first sequence, which is also called as a modern array in Python, is called list. List is one of the very important sequence that we use. What the list does basically, it is a kind of a data structure which has collection of arbitrary objects. Collection of arbitrary objects. What does it mean? Initially I told you an array is a collection of storage or values in same type of values in an adjacent locations. Collection of similar data types in adjacent locations. Whereas in a list, if you look into it, the list also array form only. But only the difference is here we can have arbitrary objects. We can have an arbitrary object. What does it mean? So in one location you may have an integer value, and in next location
you may have a floating point value. In a subsequent location you may have a string here, a character in adjacent location. But so like this, we can have arbitrary objects in adjacent locations in a list. And also, like similar to an array, the link list is also having the addresses ranging from 0 to n1. And whatever the operation that we can do with a normal array can also be done with the list as well. Okay. And the next collection of values in order can be done by using another sequence type, which is called tuple. Tuple, it's basically an immutable version of list. So the tuple, it's also kind of a list. The list is almost similar to an array, right? So what is the difference between the tuple and array? So for an example, you have kind of a tuple like this. Tuple is also similar to array appearances. So we store the values. What values? Again, arbitrary values. You may have a float, you may have a string values, or you may have a character values. Got it? So like this, you may have a different types of values. And one important thing is the tuple is an immutable list. Immutable means once the tuple is formed, you cannot change the content of the tuple. For example, if you want to write something instead of a string, then it is not allowed here, and that will raise an error or an exception. So tuple, it's basically it's an immutable version of a list. And the third one, which is most widely used, it's nothing but a string. String, it's basically, it is known in a normal way, the string is a collection of characters. Got it? String is a collection of characters. Let's say it's a big data. Big data, it's a collection of a bita. And now, in Python, the string, it's basically a sequence of immutable text characters. That's quite important. Immutable characters. What does it mean? String, you have a collection of characters, and if you try to modify any of this character, you will get an error. So you're not allowed to change any of this string. Once it is formed, we have to use the string as it is. You can't change this string kind of no big I can't put got it out here because it is immutable. But there are some other operation like append you can do, right? Merging of the string, it's a concatenation we can do it with a string. Those things are permitted, but in between the characters are not allowed to be changed. That's called, it's immutable. So these are the main three sequence types. What are the sequences type? We have list, we have tuple, and also we have a string. So these are the sequence types. What it does, it collects the values. It maintains the collection of values in order. That is very, very important. In order. There are many other sequences also where we have a collection of values not in order. Okay. So such things also there that we can see in our subsequent details also. So those are basically a kind of a set, and the immutable version of set is called, and also another thing called dictionary. So these things all can be considered to be
sequence types, but where we don't bother about the orders. So in unordered way, we will use the set, frozen set, and dictionary. Okay. So everything it can be considered as a simple array where we can have a different types of elements stored in an adjacent locations. Thank you so much.